Hello, welcome. This is my presentation on the Audit Export module, bringing clarity to complex Drupal sites. My name is Will Jackson. I've been working in Drupal for over 15 years. I work at Canopy Studios, and I am passionate about building tools to simplify site management, just level up teams and help make better decisions about their web properties. Some of the common challenges that we have encountered with site audits, the main one being that's just time consuming. A lot of the sites that we inherit, so I personally work in a support team at Canopy. I manage 39 different clients, 39 different sites, and bringing in new ones all the time. And sometimes they're simple, sometimes they're very complex. There's a lot of custom code, and it seems like every one is different, and that's kind of the unique beauty of Drupal. But that leaves it hard to budget, hard to estimate the costs, how long would it take to go through a site, review the code, review the modules, how is it configured. So there's really a big difference between small sites and big sites. Sometimes you think some sites are very complex and they're built very well and they're a breeze to manage. Other times what seems to be a simple site can scare you and they have lots of skeletons in the closet. So the complexity varies, and trying to make a one-size-fits-all approach is generally impractical. And then a lot of times when we're creating these audits, we're doing them for different reasons. So a lot of times you're bringing in a new site into your organization and you need to evaluate it. Other times, it might be a site that's been around for a while and you're going to migrate it, so like Drupal 7 to modern Drupal, and just getting inventory of things like content types, fields, user roles, permissions, menus, views, custom code. There's a long list of things that we would typically go through, but generally these are produced, at least at some point, usually initially as a spreadsheet. It's common, is what we're seeing, but we usually take that and then move that into like presentations and something a little bit more formal, but generally starts with a spreadsheet. So about Audit Export. This is a contrib module. It's available on Drupal.org. You can install it with Composer. It just takes a couple of minutes. It comes pre-packaged with a basic suite of 9 reports. These 9 reports, we'll take a look at them in more detail in a bit, but they're just sort of the high-level things that we would constantly looking into. Things like the field types, the content types, user roles, permissions, menus, views, blocks, theme, general information about the site. The module works with Drush, so being able to access everything via Drush. So this is helpful for, one, if you just like command line, working with Drupal from command line. But 2, being able to implement that into your CI/CD workflow. So if you're using something like a Pantheon, you can use a Quicksilver script to run these automatically whenever you're merging into a particular environment. You have to do a PR. You can get creative about where you want to run that. The contrib module also has a submodule that integrates with the tool API, and it basically creates a lot of the functionality and features of the module, exposes them as tools. So that way then the tool API can then expose that to your AI tooling, and then all of the report data is then available to you through the tool API and to your AI and your preferred LLMs. It's highly customizable, so where I do provide 9 reports out of the box to kind of get you started, and I haven't run into many scenarios yet. One example I was thinking of is like Drupal Commerce. I mean, not every site, there's a lot of commerce sites out there, but not every site's running commerce. But whenever it is running commerce, there's a lot of additional information that you would want to pull out there. Things like your stores, your products, and product types, etc. So it's very customizable. You can create custom reports. To create a custom report, you're able to, it's really simple. It uses the plugin system. We'll look more into that later. But if you would like to create your own custom reports, you can do that too. And then by doing that, all of the main features of Audit Export then will be derived into your custom reports. So, if you create a custom report, you don't have to do anything special to integrate it with Cron. You don't have to do anything special to integrate with Drush. It's just available to you in your normal workflow. So setup and install. The module itself comes with the core module and 3 additional modules. If you just install the module like Audit Export, as you typically would, because that's the namespace of the module, and you were to go to Drupal.org and install that, It's going to install Audit Export Core. Core comes with all the basic functionality, things like cron API implements, Q API implements for larger processing, Drush integration, tool integration, all of that will just come with the core module. Audit Export, the main name of the module, that is going to provide those 9 basic reports. So if you didn't want to use the reports that come with the module, and you want to have everything entirely custom, using custom reports, you could do that too. You would just enable Audit Export Core on its own. And then we have 2 other sub-modules. There's Audit Export Tool. I'll talk about that one a bit so far. It just integrates everything with the Tool API. But then there's a 4th module, Audit Export Post. And so each time these reports are run, that report object, what do you do with it? I mean, you could just look at the level of the site, and that's where I think most people would probably, how they would mostly use it. But it also gives you the ability to post that somewhere. You can be anywhere. I've got an example of kind of what I have in mind for that functionality that I like to show towards the end. But yeah, it's helpful if you're wanting to aggregate all those reports in a single place to where, because with the module installed on a single site, it's giving you reports for that single site, but maybe if you have hundreds of sites that you want to install this on and have that in a centralized place, that's where the remote host functionality comes in. So yeah, running an audit, you can do it from the UI. It's a pretty simple interface. We'll probably do a live demo here in a moment. You can run it from Drush, and it also runs with cron. I've been talking about cron and Q API. You can have it run every time the cron runs. It works with Ultimate Cron, so if you want to schedule it based on the Ultimate Cron capabilities, you can do that. There is sort of like a dumb way of scheduling it within the module itself, so it's just like, don't run this module for a week, or don't run reports for a week. So the site's not changing that often. You don't need it to be using up extra processor memory doing that every time cron runs, so you can just have it scheduled on a given time. And that's sort of apart from Ultimate Cron. So it just kind of gives you a simple, basic way of doing that. But if you install Ultimate Cron, it just sort of overrides that, handles it there. So yeah, looking into the demo, I vibe coded a little Drupal Camp 2030 site yesterday. It's not super fancy, but it does have a variety of content types. I've got like speakers, news, sponsors. I tried to get like not actual names of companies. I tried to keep it as generic as possible. I didn't want to show any like favoritism. I guess I could put Canopy in there. But we have sessions, and it's not a very complex site. I just kind of tried to get some boilerplate information, sort of a demonstration of different content types, speakers, etc. And all these are built with views and custom blocks, and to sort of demonstrate the capabilities of the module itself. So this is the site that we're testing, and when you install the module, now I've already installed it here, though like most of us have probably installed Drupal modules before, we don't need to go through that process again. But when it gets installed, in the Reports tab, there will be a new option called Audit Export. We select that. Here are the 9 reports that I was referring to. So there is the content type audit, active user roles audit, taxonomy audit, modules audit, blocks, views, site reports, entity fields, and menus. So just looking at the content type audit, we look into there. It's pretty basic CSV, something that you would typically do whenever you're auditing a site. What content types are here, what are machine names, how many published nodes you have of that content type, how many are unpublished, and then the enabled displays for that particular one. If we go back to sort of look at all these, this is the user role audit. So this is actually so most of the reports have what's called a flat type of report, which is just a generic, think of a spreadsheet, you've got a header column and all the data underneath it. This is a cross type, so it has additional data included in there. So we're looking at user roles and more specifically permissions, but we also have this additional row up top that lets us know how many user roles or how many users are of that role. So you have 0 for content editor, a couple of authenticated users to administrative, and then looking at the permissions. So this is pretty much the same exact thing that you would see on the user permission page. It's just condensed down, because trying to look and digest everything at a glance on the user permission page can be overwhelming, especially if you're looking at a bunch of checkboxes and trying to understand like what roles do they have, and you get a lot of roles, you get a lot of permissions, and it takes a while. Sometimes the damn thing won't even load for like 5 minutes, depending on the site. So again, Audit Export gives you a heads up beforehand, but in this case, it aggregates a lot of that. So it's looking for differences. So like rather than showing all the checkbox, it'll aggregate it and say, you have all permissions for an admin, or things that are specific for particular modules, like viewing comments, skipping comments, edit their own comments. It's the same exact thing as a permission page, it's just more condensed and little bit easier to digest. Taxonomy vocabulary, similar to like the content types, we're looking at the the different vocabularies, how many terms are in there, how deep does it go, like how many nested terms do we have in there, how many fields are referencing the vocabulary, and do they have custom fields? That's something that sometimes slips through the cracks. If you're looking in taxonomy terms, I wouldn't say it's not common to add custom fields to taxonomy term, but it's not as common as you may think. You can do it. A lot of people don't do it. It's used as a simple tagging feature. But Drupal being awesome, you can extend that to add any fields you want. Just having a quick way to kind of tell if it actually has additional custom fields. Modules enabled. Just let you know your current modules, current version, latest release. If it's what type of module, so like core module. There are contributed modules and then submodules. So like a module that's packaged with another contrib module lets you it differentiates that and lets you know what module it comes with. So like I've mentioned, there's Audit Export Core, Post, and Tool. Those are part of the Audit Export module. Blocks. These will just be all the blocks that it has found. Lets you know, where they're enabled in the theme, where they're placed, which region in the theme they're placed into, and the visibility settings. So most of these are set for all pages, and views. This one's helpful. So being able to take a look at all the views, all the different displays for your views, any display paths. And then if it's provided by a module. Now this is more helpful in Drupal 7. So one of the things I should also mention too is this module was initially built as a tool to help you migrate sites from Drupal 7 to Drupal 10, or at the time Drupal 10, Drupal 11 now. So it works all the way back to Drupal 7. The initial development is probably a little more polished on the Drupal 7 side. There's a little bit more override settings with the D7 version, but it's the exact same module for Drupal 7, so it'll work all the way back for your older sites. This module name field is helpful for understanding if a module is part of the features module or if it's being added through a custom module. Just helps you identify that quickly. And any page type displays will show you the paths that are involved with them. Site report. This is kind of like a site status page. It lets you know your PHP version, IP address of your environment, theme, default theme, admin theme. If e-commerce was detected, so I didn't add the reports themselves, but if it detects that you're using an e-commerce module, it'll flag it here. If the Git directory is detected, and then the version of Drupal. In any field, this is where I say this is kind of where the magic happens. This is every single entity, every single field, the field types, the module that it's being provided. So it's a custom module that's providing a custom field. It lets you know that. Things like entity reference fields will let you know what entity it's actually referencing. And then the bundles, so if it's going for a compare an entity and then targeting a specific bundle, let you know that here too. The cardinality, so is it one reference, is it multiple references, 2 unlimited, lets you know that as well. And it's this can be a pretty long list. So this is one that if you have a really complex site, it would take some time. So I'd probably consider maybe doing it in a dev environment, testing on a local environment, sort of thing. This one can be beefy. And then menus. So with menus, just let you know how many menus are in there, how many links were found, again, if it's coming from a custom module, the maximum depth, and if it has expanded children. So something like the admin or the administration menu would. So yeah, from here, we can click process all, and it'll run through and basically get the most recent information for all of this. It'll go through each one of those reports, grab all of that dynamic data, and then build the reports. It doesn't take too long. Again, it depends on the site. So the simpler sites are going to take faster. More complex sites will take longer. I just sort of YOLO'd. I got all of the reports in that moment. But you can also go into each particular report and run them one by one. And yeah, so it's up to date, and nothing has changed on the site since I've last run it, so we don't need to go through those reports again. But just as a high level, if you need to process a report like a single report, you can do that here. And then you also have the ability to download CSV of this information, which is helpful if you don't want to like set up MCP, you don't want to really set up anything additional for like AI services, and grab that CSV, and you might just import it into Google Drive. That's probably what most people would be doing. But you could also drop that into your LLM, to your chat, and it's helpful as well. Sort of a quick way of doing that anyway. Looking at the top level module, the settings page. So I have everything turned on right now. All those 4 sub-modules are currently enabled. The CSV downloads, we just looked at the CSV, being able to download that. It can just store it in the database, so if this is turned off and not saved to the file system, it won't save it anywhere. It'll just save it in the database, and every time you go to get an export, it'll just grab it from the database and create it for you there. Most common is just you're saving it to the temporary file system. It makes it a little faster to retrieve it later. Public file system, if you have a private file system, that would also be an option here too. I don't have it turned on for this particular site. It gives you the ability to specify like which directory you want to keep them in, if you need to change that for any reason. And cron configuration, so I have this basically turned on, so running on cron, and it's going, since I don't have this running every time, it's going to look at this default frequency. So this is the number of minutes, so 1,440 minutes, I think, is a day. Every day, once a day, and then queue timeout. So if a report's taking too long, what's that maximum timeout that's going to go into? Remote post. We'll go into this more detail in a bit, but this is the feature where you're pushing it somewhere, or you're aggregating it somewhere. So this is, if you have it enabled, what's the name of the site? If you have any type of authentication, that's there too, and some advanced settings here. So timeout, do we want to verify SSL, or do we want to include additional information for debugging? So at a high level, that's the module, and that's how it mostly works. So going into some more of the advanced features. So we talked about creating custom module or custom plugins. It's kind of hard to read. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger in the slideshow. Okay, it's a little easier to read. So for a custom module, or a custom plugin, it's really simple. It uses the Drupal plugin API. So for your export, you just give an ID, a label, which is like human readable machine name, a description. The data type is flat. That's 8 of the 9 reports are using the flat type, and the one that's using the cross type is that permissions, user roles, and because it has basically a section on top of the initial report to kind of give you a count for all of the different users that have a particular role. Groups, so if you want to have different groups of things, like e-commerce, it could be a group, or site information could be a group. And then the dependencies, so if there is a module that, like something like Drupal Commerce, and you need to have the Commerce module enabled before the report runs, actually you can use that. But for a plugin, you effectively just extend the Audit Export based plugin class and create your own new one. There's a constructor. The constructor is effectively just creating the headers for, you think of like creating the headers for the columns for your reports. Prepared data. This is, if you're familiar with views, this will be like, kind of like a base table. So like, what is the base information that you need? So like content types, for example. Well, how do you programmatically get a list of all the content types? So now that you got all the machine names for the content types. The third one is how do you process it? So once you have that initial preparation of the data, well, now how are you going to go through each of those items that you have in your prepare data function? How are you going to process them? So those are the only 3 functions you need to create your own reports. And by creating your own reports, it then becomes available to you within Audit Export, becomes available to you in Drush, cron, the tool API. And so it's really easy to extend that. I got a custom GPT that effectively has this in place, and I can just talk to it, and it'll give me, for the most part, it actually does a pretty good job of one-shotting granted, the complexity is that there's big asterisks there, but it's been doing it well for a while. So this module's been out since just before DrupalCon Atlanta, and that gives you any kind of timestamp of when I was using the custom GPT. So it's not even like considering Opus 4.5 or 4.6 or any of the more advanced LLMs that have come out recently. So even with the older ones, GPT-4, right, work quite well with that. And yeah, so just creating custom audits really simple. It just integrates into whatever we have there. So the tool module, so this is so the Audit Export tool is a sub-module for Drupal MCP. Drupal MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It allows LLMs to effectively connect to your site. Now there's other dependencies for the MCP module, like Drupal AI module. There's a lot of, as you can imagine, it's a very busy space right now. So like currently the MCP module is going through sort of a rework there's the MCP server module, and they're combining and they're using the same MCP namespace. So some of this may change and will require some updates in the future, but just sort of know that is sort of changing a little bit, but it's still using the tool API, so I'm not expecting it to be much of a change when it does occur. But what this allows you to do is all those reports, all that data that's available to your reports, really the entire operation of the module, so you can like run reports too, but it makes it available to you from within LLM. And then the remote host capability, we talked about that a little bit too. So once you have your reports, where are you sending to? What are you doing with them? It's optional. You don't have to do this, but I got some ideas of how you can do that. So I want to get into the next part of the live demo, and this is I want to start with the tool module. So I've already kind of prepped it. I'm just trying to expedite things here, so I've already typed it all out for the prompt here. Before I send it, I'll just kind of show you what you get onto your connectors. This is Claude Desktop, by the way. Most of us are probably familiar with Claude Code, Claude, ChatGPT. Claude is it's the one I prefer, but in this case, if you have a Claude Plus or Max account or Teams account or Premium Teams account, you'll have access to Claude Desktop. Claude Desktop is pretty much the same thing as Claude Web or like ChatGPT Web. If you use it from the web interface, it's added to the desktop, but it also allows you to integrate MCP servers into it as well. You can do it on the web service through their connectors. You probably have a better time using the desktop application. It just works better. But it also works with Claude Code too. So I mean, it's the same MCP server. All the data is available to you. I'm just using Claude Desktop as sort of an easier way to digest how it's working. So I will open this up and look at the connectors. So we see that there's this Drupal MCP server. I won't go into a lot of detail about how to set up MCP, but I just want to show you that if you can go into your developer section, there's MCP server, and you can find this on the MCP module page. There's a documentation site. It's great. It has all this information there. But effectively, I'm just creating a specific user for my MCP operations. The MCP module then connects to the Drupal site, uses that user. That user is an administrative user. Asterisk here, be careful with it. Don't do it on production. Don't be dumb. Like just there's a lot of considerations there, but yeah, this is you probably want to be using this on a local environment for sure. It's something that's secure, and ideally something that doesn't have a lot of PII in it. If you can sanitize your database, that's just a good practice to be doing in these cases. But if we look at our connectors and look at the tools, there's Drupal MCP, and it comes with a ton of tools. So basically the entire call stack with Drupal gets added as an MCP tool, but we can also see that mixed in here, we have a lot of our Audit Export functionality that's here. So basically being able to get the specific reports, to run the reports, the ones that come with that, plus it derives the names. So like if you had custom report names, they would also show up here because it's deriving the tools based on what reports that the site sees. So depending on if you're using custom reports or not, this list may grow. But I've already got the basic ones here, and I just have it set to where it's just always allow these, mainly for the demonstration. So if I go back to my chat, oh great, now I lost it because I did all that. So let me just copy that again. And this prompt, it's fairly generic, so it's just saying to using the reports from Audit Export via Drupal MCP, create a comprehensive site audit document for the website based solely, I even misspelled that one. Let's leave it there. It's the swag code, I guess. And on the information available to you via Audit Exports via Drupal MCP. So pretty generic command. And what this is going to do, we'll see that it'll begin thinking, and I'll open this up here in just a moment. We can kind of see it going through each of these steps. So using the MCP server, it's then listing all of the export or the audit export reports. It detected 9 of them, and now it's going to go through each of those. And it kind of flashed there for a moment, but see right here where it says audit export derived. That's where it's pulling out. So if you had custom reports, it would also be available to you here too. And it's just looping through each one of these, grabbing all of the data, and then it's going to try to produce what it thinks I mean by a site audit. So I didn't tell it what a site audit was. I just said, give me a site audit. And it works pretty well. So I mean, now if you create a custom project or a Claude MD and you defined exactly what you're looking for in a site audit, it would be even better if you're using something like Claude Code, maybe where Audit Export might not have the information it's looking for. Claude Code may be able to use Drush if you check out the database to get that extra information. So there are some benefits of using Claude Code versus Claude Desktop. I think Claude Desktop's probably a little more approachable with this type of demonstration for the talk, but no, that you very well could be using it for just development, being able to get a lot of this high-level information very quickly and being able to reduce the tokens. I mean, like if you're not having to run through and do a lot of like loading of the site, and the LLM's not having to do a lot of extra work to get the information, if they can just provide that information directly to that. The other benefit of that too is that the module is programmatically going through building this report. You're not having to worry about hallucinations. You're not having to worry about any data that might be off. It's just providing, here's the data that's in your site, and that's what you're basing it on. And it's dynamic. So if you go and add a new content type, you add some fields, you add some views. The next time you run it, it's grabbing that data, it's pulling it in, and it's augmenting that in real time. And it's not having to use as many tokens to get that data. So I mean, it could be used in a lot of different ways, and has a lot of benefits to that. So looking through these reports, it's going through all of them. It's trying to now create the site audit report. And it doesn't take too long. I have a whole nother, I've done this conversation before, so I have a report if it takes too long. I'm trying to stall a little bit just so I can prepare this, but yeah, so I guess, so we won't have to wait. I'll go back to this other one. It's the same exact prompt that I sent prior to that. So this is the prompt that the same exact one that I copy and pasted in earlier. This does the same thing, goes through reports, and this is the report that I created. It is I think 12 or 13 page document, and this is what it produced. And again, I didn't tell it what a site audit was. I just said make a site audit, and sort of using what LLM thinks the site audit is for. I even called it a comprehensive site audit, which is awesome. I don't know if I used that word in my prompt. Lets you know when it ran, how it was generated. Gives you a nice little table of contents here. It's executive summaries, key metrics. In this case, it lets me know how much content was posted. Breaks it down by content type. Looks into the environment infrastructure, so what version of Drupal are you on, what version of PHP are you running. The IP address, if you're on something like Pantheon, that's going to be a floating, so it's not as big of a deal. And if you're using something like a local environment, so it's going to be a local IP address. So it's not super helpful in those cases, but if you're hosting your site on, say, a more affordable, but like a lower end web host, something like a DigitalOcean, Linode, or something like that, it could be helpful for identifying which IP address is there. The default theme, the admin theme, the same thing that we saw in that site status report. To type of get. Breaks down the content in this case, so lets you know the content types, the machine names, how much is published, how much is unpublished, enabled displays, and it breaks down for the session fields, the speaker fields, sponsor fields, basically all the different content types that we have on this test site here. different media types. So when I was building this, it was like, use a media module for things. So it implements that, pulls back those entities, taxonomy, vocabularies, the views, modules, blocks, menu structure, roles and permissions. This was kind of cool because it like breaks it down and lets you kind of, even though the module itself condenses things, the LLM condenses it further. So it just kind of gives you a high level. And even like the content editor role, I didn't even have, it's a default role, but I didn't have any users as part of that. Kind of using that as an example, a lot of times you inherit sites that have a ton of roles. Maybe when they were building the site, they had all these grand ideas of different roles and they wanted to add, but they never added users to those roles. This will identify basically roles that can be just removed in this case, in some cases. So it has the permissions, but I think down in, where was it? Somewhere it mentions the role. Basically it says like there's no role, no user of that role, so it can be removed. And then gives us overall recommendations. So it talks about the content types, unused content types. So article, basic pages, you don't have any content there. I just use all custom content types. There it is. So there, the content editor role has all these permissions, but then there are no users for that. High-level navigation, module stack. So yeah, it serves as a good starting point, so you can then take this information. So this is a document. You can also say, give it to me in Markdown. You can copy that, you can paste it in the Google Drive, and then now you're using if you already have like templates and stuff for your Google Drive, for your org for Google Drive, you can just paste it right into that, and now it's branded with your own personal presentation, or it's Markdown. You can do whatever you like with that. It does work with co-work too, although that'd be a longer process to go through. It's a bit slower, but the same data is available to you there. So if you have a presentation that you wanted to create, or something a bit more in depth with some of those CSV files, some of the files that you produce, co-work is a really cool feature, and some really cool things you can do with that. Been using it for presentation specifically, but yeah, it works pretty well. And yeah, so that's the high level of that. So remote post, that was the other feature. So remote post, I have, so what do you do? Where are you posting it to? So in this case, the module is currently installed on a single site, and if I were to go I would have to go to each site to look at those reports. The idea that I had in mind is it'd be cool if there was a single place where all of them would be kind of funneled into, and you can kind of watch it and see, which of your sites have module updates available. Which ones need PHP upgrade? Or there's a security update for this module, which sites are running that module? Just have a quick place to know that, be confident with decisions. So I made a thing called Site Dash. It's basically a dashboard for all of that. And there's a second module for this. There's a Site Dash module in Drupal.org. And what that does is, with that Site Dash module, it's just like the URL. It's a dev, and I have it on the dev environment right now, but that's my URL. It authenticates, it gets a key, and then it also has the override remote post functionality. So I have this turned on. And when I have that turned on, if I go back to Audit Export, go into my settings, go all the way down at the bottom to remote post. So it's enabled, but I can't, it's overridden here. And it gives me a warning here too, so it's being overridden by the Site Dash module. And what happens is that every time these reports are run, and actually I'll just run one report just to kind of make it stand out a little more. So that was my entity reports, and if I go to my site list, here are sort of all my demo sites that I've created. So I've got, in my blog. But this Drupal Camp Florida 2030 site, if I go into here, I can now see all the modules are up to date. I just installed this thing yesterday, so it's pretty up to date. But I can see that my entities report that I just ran was submitted less than a minute ago. I was working on this morning, so I've sent all of them through within the past 30 minutes. But if I go into this report, just like Audit Export, everything's available to you here. You can export that via CSV, but it's all in one place, and you can easily just kind of see what's what sites are there. So if I look at this Drupal site here, and then go look at let me look at the modules page here. So this will show me all the modules, similar to the site, if it's contribute, if it's core, if it's a sub-module. If I look at Audit Export, It gives me a breakdown of what other sites are using this module. If there's a security update available, it'll show here. Some quick links, so like going to the project page, looking at the whole modules page. There's site insights, and a few more things here. One of the things about the entity report field, so like we've got this entities, where is it? Right here. So the entities report. Using this information, one of the things that we've also found ourselves doing a lot was creating ERDs, so entity relationship diagrams, usually big diagrams that say like, these are the content types, or these are the entities, and these are the fields, and here's how they link to each other. Part of this too is I'm automatically building those. So based on that report data, you can do more stuff with it. So in this case, I have all of the different entity reports, and if I were to say click on any one of these entities, it'll pop up, giving more information about that, what it's referencing, the field properties. This is really helpful, and when it comes down to migrations, being able to know what data, how the data is saved in the database, what it's referencing. It's a really, really helpful way for being able to do that, because not everything is going to be exposed to you in the field. You're going to have things like the node ID. It's kind of treated like a field, but I mean, it's not something that you would see in the edit fields for a content type. But all that additional metadata that's associated with those entities will be available for you here, and will be absolutely required in building migrations. And then this here too, you can toggle the visibility of entities, so I can like turn off the files and media, or if I want to target specific bundles, you can do that too. So you can turn things off and on here. These can then be, you can edit the placement. So like if you want to move things around, clean it up a little bit, you can do that. So like I want to pull this out here, and you can have fun with this and like build out exactly how you want that to, and then you can save the placement. You can export this to Drawlio. So like this is not a really great interface for doing that. Maybe 100% Drawlio is a better place to make these sort of edits, so you can export that to Drawlio, and that'll give you an export to just drop in there. You can reset the placement, so if you've really messed some things up, you can send it back. And you can save different diagrams. So like if you were to save a diagram view, you can give it a name, give it a description, and then if you had one, maybe you had a new feature that you're adding that comes with a new content type and a few new custom entities, you can kind of create a ERD specifically for that feature, save it, and then you can list it, and you'll be able to like load them back in. But all this is just sort of a high-level idea of what you could do with the remote post functionality. Site is something that's not public currently. Site-AI is the website. There's a MailChimp form. As soon as it goes live, I'm going to send everybody out probably like some free trial links or something like that. So if you're interested in checking that out, go sign up there. And that's just AI. Yeah, it's just like a MailChimp sign up is all this is. So if you want to go find out more about that whenever it comes out, let me know. But that's kind of what I had in mind for the remote post functionality. You don't have to use that. It's like it'll be a free service, like that web dashboard will all be free. There's a paid version. There's like a desktop app. It gets really crazy. I won't get into that. That's not what this presentation's about. But there are some really cool things you can do with that. Basically, the desktop application sort of circumvents the need of using Drupal MCP, and it becomes the MCP server, and then that one MCP server that's on your device still has has all the data available to it through Site So then you don't have to worry about setting anything up, and it's like a one click. You click one button and it configures it. It makes it really simple. Yeah, so that's a high level of the Audit Export module. One more thing too is that all of this is available on WordPress too. So it's basically a one-to-one comparison for WordPress. There's a WordPress plugin, so wordpress.org/plugin/audit-export. They don't do the underscores, unfortunately, on wordpress.org, but it's there too. And so it's one tool that could be, so Canopy, we support Drupal and WordPress, and so it's just like one tool that can be used for both of them. And the dashboard too also supports WordPress and has similar, it has a one-to-one sort of interop between the two. So yeah, that's it. I thank you all for coming to my presentation, and yeah, any questions?
felt like an idiot for doing a bunch of those things manually now.
Well, we did it for so long, and and every time I had that same exact thought.
As well.
All right.
I started talking, I was like, is that a Drupal 7 module? Before you even said it, I was like, oh, it is. I'm going to run this tomorrow.
Heck yeah. Nice. Yeah. Mark.
Just, I guess out of curiosity, so like in this space, I feel like there's also the like site audit module, and then the other one is like content model and site documentation.
Right.
What would you say, like if somebody is evaluating the three of those, is the reason to choose this one as opposed to the other two?
Yeah, so those are all their very established modules. A lot of them have been around for a while. I believe most of them. I know Site Audit does have D7 support. I'm not sure about the content modeler. Yeah, so it's just sort of the high level CSV, kind of like what you were saying, Lee. Like if you're going through and building spreadsheets, basically inventory of stuff, it's just sort of a standardized format for that. Other modules are similar. They're looking for different things, but this module also is built with the intention of taking all that data, being able to index that, and then through like the remote post functionality and the tool API, just have some more direct integrations with some of the newer AI tooling that's out there. The other modules are great. I've used them for many years, and in some cases, there are a few more things it can do more on the code level than this module. So this one's not really looking at the specific code, it's just sort of looking at what's been initialized in the database, what modules it sees. So it's a lighter weight version of that, but it still gives you the endpoints and the data needed to then hand off to an LLM to be able to do some more advanced stuff. So like Claude Code, for example, being able to kind of quickly get that information, hand it off to an LLM, and then let it go, then do the deeper digging, or being able to manage your context. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes?
Those ERD those diagrams of the entities, is that only available in the Site Dash, or is that part of the audit?
That's part of Site Dash. There were some plugins I was looking at to build that within Drupal. It kind of became out of scope from what I was looking for, and then the dash. But then, whenever I got to a point where I was like, man, this ERD would be sick, and I wanted to put that in there. And I was like, well, this is kind of more of a support thing from the audit, and everybody's wanting to build an ERD and then adding in additional code and overhead to, just to the base module, or even to a sub-module, didn't seem quite necessary. Then I was like, well, maybe get people using Site Dash, maybe. That was sort of the thought there. But yeah, it's just to be able to do Site Dash, do that functionality. But I believe there are, it's been a while since I've looked into it now that I've had this for a while, but I do believe there are some ERD modules within Drupal that provide some limited functionality for creating those diagrams within Drupal too. So, but yeah, the other benefit is just that it takes all the data into an expert, so you can have a single place to kind of see all of your ERDs for all of your sites. So. Yeah. All right, well, thank you all for joining, and and thanks for coming to Drupal Camp Florida, and yeah, it's been great. Thanks, everybody.
Question, again.
Yeah.